Alright guys, so I'm back with another video, and today's I'm going to show you how to set up a state for the torch. So open up ALS and go into meshes and right click on the torch, go to Asset Actions, Export. I've already exported it, but I'll export it again. I normally disable level of details and collision unless it has custom LODs or custom collision. If it doesn't, in which case I doubt these do, then I just export it without them. So I'm not going to actually export that because I've already exported it. But after that, you can go into the character assets, mannequin skeleton, animation examples, overlay, torch, and you're going to export the torch aim sweep and the torch poses. Same way, asset actions, export, and then export them. After that, you can open up the project, make sure you have version 1.04 or later, because I've set up the UE5 mannequin control rig for the UEFN one. And so what we're going to do first is in the UE4 mannequin folder, we're going to go to ALS poses, and we're going to import those poses onto the UE4 mannequin since they share the same skeleton as the ALS Mani. Let me see here if I can remember what folder I put them in. Yeah, this one. And then I'm just going to go ahead and import those two poses. Onto the UE4. I normally check use default sample rate for the export time under advanced. And then you can select both of these and go to retarget animations and type in UEFN, just like that. Now select these two with the stars on them. Those are the ones, unless you saved them, they should have the stars on them. That means they haven't been saved yet. Now we're going to export. Characters, UEFN, animations. And I should probably start redoing this folder structure here, but under here I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it torch and export those. And it may open up the folder for you in the content browser. If it doesn't, just go back to that same folder and you should see them. Now under blueprints, weapons, we're going to, it's not really a weapon, so maybe we should call that folder held objects or something, but anyway, I'm just going to call it torch. And I'm going to import the torch mesh. Everything should be left at default for that. And there you go. You probably won't have any collision currently. Okay, it does have collision. If you check simple collision and it shows it, then you'll see it does have collision. I think that's a little bit too complex, so I'm going to delete that. And you can give it a capsule collision, and that's far simpler and it still covers it, so that should be good. You can also change the default collision settings for this object down here under collision preset. but we don't actually need to do that right now, I don't guess. Actually, I guess you could go to custom and you could tell it to ignore pawns. It may still block it though, because I believe it's also considered a world dynamic. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert at collision stuff. I rarely mess with it. But anyway, so we got all that in, and now what we can do is we can go back to the UEFN, the torch folder, and open up the sweep. All right, so I had to make some modifications to the control rig. So by default, it's going to constrain the IK handgun bone to the right weapon bone. And so, I mean, we're not really using it, so it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, so I'm just going to go to bake to control rig. And actually, I should rename this. So I'm just going to rename this real quick to CRUEFN. So by the time you watch this, it'll have already been renamed to that. So go to edit and sequencer, bake to control rig, and CRUEFN mannequin body, and bake to control rig. And now over here in the scene, over by the Unreal logo, you should see your guy with the control rig. First thing you're going to notice is all these controls. Don't be alarmed. This blue arrow right here is for the weapon L bone, and this red arrow over here is for the weapon R bone. So I'll do more videos of like this for custom characters in the future, but for now we're just going to do this from the UEFN so that you guys understand how this works, at least until they fix the modular control rig bug that messes up the shoulders during the backward solver. So let's see. First thing we're going to do is scroll all the way up to the top and collapse this right here. And we're going to right click on it and go to add section and additive. We're going to expand this one frame. In case you guys don't know what an additive track is, it literally adds whatever changes you make on top of the base pose. So instead of having to make your changes across all these keyed frames, that's what these dots are. These are keyed frames. Instead of having to make your changes across each and every single one of these, you can do it on one frame of your additive track, and it'll propagate across the entire animation. And that's the reason why we're using an additive track. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our weapons folder, torch, drop the torch into here. And now with the torch still selected, go to add to sequence, add torch, and then right click and convert to spawnable. Now you're going to press this plus button, attach, and attach it to that animation. It's going to ask you what bone you want to attach it to, and you're going to attach it to the weapon L bone in this case. There will be an offset. As you can see right here, there's an offset, so we're going to reset that on both of them so that there's no rotational or locational offset. And now it's perfectly oriented with this weapon bone here. By default, we are in world coordinates. So if you look at this gizmo over here, world coordinates says X is this way, Y is that way, and Z is up. But when we're working with controls, we don't want to, sometimes we want it, if we're in IK mode, we want it to be in world coordinates most of the time, but sometimes we want it to be in local coordinates, even in IK mode. Most of the time, though, you're going to be using local coordinates. So inverse kinematics allows you to get the hand and move it from here over here. It allows you to move it in a straight line. Whereas in FK mode, you have to manually rotate everything into position. And so some things are not appropriate for FK mode, obviously. And so we have FK and IK mode, and they're all, both of them have different purposes. So for this torch, we're just going to rotate it 180 degrees, actually 160 degrees. And then we're going to press the blue arrow, and it looks like we're still in world coordinates. So I'm actually just going to undo that. Let's see. Yeah. And now in local coordinates, so if you see this gizmo, this is the local coordinate. And now we're going to rotate it 180 degrees. There we go. And now we're going to use this arrow to just move it up. By default, this is set to snap every 10 centimeters. We're going to set that to 1. You can turn it off too for if you need precision. I'm going to set this degrees down to 2.812, which is the lowest. Sometimes I need to turn it completely off if I need real precise precision, but it helps to be able to have it snap. So I think that's probably pretty good. So it looks like our finger controls are not currently active. I don't know if they removed the finger controls, but I know that the UE5 default template one had finger controls that allowed you to move the fingers together. It doesn't look like this has it though. Okay, well, I might swap this one out later for that other one since that's the case. What it means is that we're going to have to rotate each of these finger joints individually. And actually all these changes that I'm making are pointless because I have not set this to auto key. And if you don't have it set to auto key, then when you move it and move it back, it'll reset everything. So I'm just going to copy this. Actually, I'm going to copy this entire transform by shift right clicking on the top of this. You can also just right click and copy all properties in category. And then I'm going to show you. Okay, actually looks like it did key it, so it may or may not reset. In some cases, it depends. In this case, it did not reset. Okay, it didn't reset that, but it reset the fingers. So let me just rotate this one out. And I will rotate. I am in local space. I'm going to rotate this one out. If you're in world space and you do this with the fingers, it's going to do some funky stuff. It looks like the finger is bent, so I'm just going to try to straighten it out. Maybe it's not bent. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong, but it looked bent to me. That's not at all uncommon for the fingers to bend funky whenever you retarget the animations. That seems to be a problem area. I don't know what I was rotating, but I'm going to undo that. And now that we've got all of this right here, what I can do is I can come over here and figure out, okay, these are the controls for that. I'm just going to select all of these controls right here for the fingers. Then I'm going to shift select this and let's see. Yeah, that's it. Should be it. So with all that selected, I'm going to go into poses and create a pose. And I'm going to call it torch hold pose. And I'm going to create it, and you'll see there's 20 controls. And so it saved all those 20 control rotations as a pose. That allows me, like, if it changes later on, whenever we do the poses after this, then we can just paste this hand pose, and they'll all have the same hand pose. And the weapon bone will be in the correct spot. So as far as that goes, that's basically all we have to do. We don't have to do anything else. But we need to make sure that there aren't going to be any problems. I'm going to, let me see here. I'm going to press this Show Tabs button, and then I'm going to dock this, if it doesn't crash. I'm going to dock this up in here right next to the animation tab. I'm going to save that asset in case it crashes. I'm just going to save all. So you can hold down Control and pull back on your mouse wheel to zoom out. Right mouse button and drag moves you around. And yeah, that's basically it. So you want to make sure that you have one extra frame here at the end. If you don't, then when you get over here to the end, it'll do that. And it looks like it did that anyway. So you see what's happening there? It doesn't look like it was keyed there. Oh, never mind. This is fine. The animation is fine. If we come up here or down there, I guess, to the bottom, let me just, you'll see right here the torch is touching the end, but it's not registering. This is the bug I was telling you about. If you don't extend things one frame, then that's basically what they'll do. And if you don't do that on an additive track, then the bone itself will snap back to where it originally was. So that's why I say that you have to extend this one frame. So I'm glad it actually did that, because it gave me a chance to show that to you guys. So now you can save this, and if you ever need to make any slight modifications to this, then you can always come back in here and do that. So I'm just going to close this one out now. And I'm going to go back into the torch folder and open up the poses. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one, except this time I don't actually need to position the hands. I do need to bring the torch in there though, just to see and make sure that it's going to be in the right correct position. Convert to spawnable, attach, weapon L bone. And I'm going to select this and reset those. And I'm going to drag this out just a little bit beyond the border of the animation. This is the end of the animation. This is the start of the animation. That's what the green one is, the start, and the red one is the end, in case anybody doesn't know. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an additive track. Before I change anything, I'm going to create an additive track, extend this one frame, and if it doesn't let you extend it, it's because it can't see the frame. So zoom out and then drag until it snaps, because it snaps to the frame. And now I'm going to press select, I'm going to check key, and I'm going to paste. And now you'll see that the hand is properly grabbing it, just like we were in the last one, and so they match. And you'll see, since we did that across all frames, it's propagated itself throughout every frame. And so if you need to make an adjustment to something, let's say you want to adjust this frame right here, don't try to move the stuff into position and then key it, because it'll interpolate between this frame right here, this keyed frame right here, and whatever keyed frame you put right here. It'll interpolate to that, and that'll affect all these other poses. So since these are poses, what you want to do is, I'll just go ahead and paste this one right here. But what you would normally probably do is select all the controls that you want, and then key them right here. You can also use this to select it. You could save just save these just for separating the body parts. Or you could just go up to the very top and you can key the entire thing right here. So if you need to move the pelvis or the arm or something like that, just key this entire thing one frame before you want to change it. And if there's a frame after it that you don't want affected by it, then key that frame too, and it'll keep it from changing that frame as well. So now that we've done that, what we can do is we can actually rotate this in, and you'll see it automatically keyed it because I have this checked. And you could leave that finger like that, or you could move it in just a little bit. Something like that. And you'll see, because of the way his hand was holding it in this one, it kind of messed things up just a little. And there's actually some controls back here. They're hidden. I don't know why, but I can rotate that this way so that that finger isn't like so close to this one. And that's basically it. I save it, and guess what? I'm done. All right, so I'm going to take a short break because it's starting to get hot in here. And when I come back, I'm going to show you all how to set that up on the anim graph.